Hey guys, Tarke here, and I want to talk you through my latest build. No, the Flicker Strike didn't rip, but I wanted to move on to something new. Now, I'm not going to lie, this is a very expensive character, and it is the One Punch Man inspired Infernal Blow Crypt Slayer. Now, what makes this all possible? The Rigwald's Cursed Wayclaw Talisman. Now, previously this was a talisman specific unique, but in this last patch we got a div card added. Called the Cursed King. It requires 8, and the only source is the Wolfpack Den unique map. I tried running about 15 of them, got no div cards from it, and in the end had to buy all the div cards off Pee-wee Trade. They were going for about 12 to 25 chaos a pop. You need 8. Again, it's somewhat expensive. What doesn't help is Facebreakers are kind of meta at the moment, thanks to all the Mathil shield charge action, which happened at the start of the league. So a lot of the items are kind of expensive. Now, even though I am doing crit, I'm not actually planning on using an Abyssus. The reasons being is hardcore, and 2, Mathil made everything really expensive. Getting even a poorly rolled Abyssus is like 50-60 chaos. You can get like a near perfect Bringer of Rain for like 5 to 10 chaos. Bringer of Rain still gives you a lot of flat fizz with certain shenanigans. I'm actually going to have an 8-linked Infernal Blow, which is kind of cool. And it gives endurance charge generation, gives a bunch of block, comes with being near block capped. Yeah, it sort of just seems alright. Now, obviously, I'm not going to have the same insane crit multi-scaling, but I should just about have enough. I will also be using the Great Old One's Ward, which adds a massive chunk of flat fizz damage, a bunch of attack speed, some max life, and a chance to block spells. Now, one other thing which is really worth noting, since this talisman makes the claw damage apply to unarmed, attack speed apply to unarmed, crit chance. Again, no, it's not all claw things, it's just those. So like claw leech won't apply, crit multi with claws won't apply, stuff like that. But you know, raw fizz does. We can also make incredibly good use of the Pugilist Jewel. Unfortunately, these are cheap. These are like an Alka Pop. And 1% increased evasion per 3 dexterity. 1% increased claw fizz per 3 dexterity. 1% increased melee fizz damage while unarmed per 3 dexterity. Basically, this means the claw and the melee fizz double dips. And we get some evasion for free. And we have a little bit of evasion, you know, from the Bringer of Rain, some other piece of gear. It sort of works. I am leveling, so we're only level 32. But, you know, I'll show you the tree and sort of the plans for the character. And again, this is a rough outline. I'm only leveling. We need to test it. Now, one thing which is probably pretty relevant, and I'll quickly cover this quickly, is Facebreaker uses up the glove slot. We're going to be using a unique belt. We're going to be using a unique helm. The helm doesn't let us use a chest. And we're using a unique shield. And a unique neck. So we need to cap our resists with 2 rings and a pair of boots. I'm planning on just getting a pair of like 40 all-res boots with move speed. Seems good, man. I've already got 2 pretty sexy rings lined up. This has an open craft on it. And I'm just going to stack some res on there. I'm going to ignore the life roll. And this is just like lots of res, good fizz damage, and I managed to craft the 40 flat life. I'm also going to be using just stacked res jewels, and I'm actually going to be like overcapped on resist, which feels good, man. And I'm going to have perm uptime on 4 endurance charges, and you do get a res per endurance charge. So it works, but you know, just keep that in mind when you look at the tree, because context, right? So we're a Slayer, and the reason for Slayer is just AoE and feels good, man. So you come through here, the 2-handed weapons doesn't apply to us, but it really doesn't matter. The attack speed's still really good. Bane of Legends gives us basically perma onslaught, which is movement speed and attack speed and cast speed. And we get 20% culling. 20% culling is pretty nice. More attack speed. We get reduced reflected fizz damage taken. 50% of our fizz is already converted over to fire. So with this and the inbuilt mechanics of Infernal Blow, Fizz Reflect doesn't exist for this build, which feels very good, man. 20% more damage, pretty solid. 20% increased AoE, pretty solid. So this is all pretty amazing. More attack speed, again, the 2-hand doesn't do anything for us. Single target melee attacks deal splash damage to surrounding targets, 50% less damage to surrounding targets, 15% increased radius of skills. So we basically get like a slightly nerfed melee splash. But we do get 20% AoE with it, and it saves us using the gem. Now you can take these 2 points and still use the Melee Splash gem, and the Melee Splash gem does give a whole boatload of increased AoE, But we are using Bring of Rain. You know, you can choose, do you want to have the extra AoE, then, you know, throw the melee splash in here. Or have the slightly weaker melee splash and run an 8-link. And I think I'm going to go for the running the 8-link setup. And then you can pick between either Endless Hunger or Overwhelm. Both are fine. I'm probably going to go for Endless Hunger just to have the leech. But I have played with the perma-stunning. But my plan is to one-shot everything, so stunning stuff shouldn't really be needed. But anyway. So we're going to come through here, grab all this stuff at the early, grab this later, grab some life, get the jewel later. One nice thing about this build is you can rush Master of the Arena, Golem's Blood, and Heart of Oak in very early 30s, late 20s, and you can run Blood Rage for your entire leveling process, which is pretty nice. Travel through here, pretty efficient damage nodes, gives us some block, which is pretty nice. Now I'll explain why I'm taking all of this. Usually most people you see just do this, and they skip this whole section. Well, we make pretty good use of the block, we make good use of the damage, and both weapon artistry and aspect of the links give dex, which is pretty nice. And we're throwing a Pugilist Jewel in here. Now, because the Pugilist Jewel double dips on the fizz damage on claws and unarmed fizz, having anything with dex becomes incredibly efficient. So you'll see we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and this gives another 20, 90 dexterity in this area. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's a whole load of just, you know, scaled fizz damage, and we get a bunch of scaled evasion. Seems pretty solid. Come up this way. We're not going for acro since we're going really heavy on the block. Very heavy on the block setup. If you want to drop the block setup, you could. If you want to go like the standard business and run acro. But I'd be really afraid of, you know, killing myself to, well, any source of physical damage. Come up this way. You can pick to go through the fizz. Again, the life leech doesn't do anything for us. I'd rather have just the large flat fizz than going through the fizz and attack speed scaling. The tree already has 59% increased attack speed. We have attack speed on gear. We should have enough attack speed. You can through this way if you want. It makes your shield charge, which is your main mobility skill, somewhat faster, so whatever. Bunch of fizz, bunch of crit chance. Again, the crit multi doesn't apply, but the crit chance does. Crit chance, crit chance. Bunch of attack speed, a bunch of flat fizz, really solid. And again, the chance to steal doesn't apply because of the talisman. Here, again, we get an absolute ridiculous amount of dex. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you get 100 dex there, which is, again, a whole load of fizz scaling. Just to be light on points, I've come along the outside. You can travel through Wool of Blades if you want to, but again, we're trying to be light on the points. More attack speed, do some more dex and in. Nice chunk of life. Grab Trickery for some crit, a little bit of Ellie scaling. The Ellie scaling is obviously really nice with Infernal Blow because half of our damage is elemental. And get Assassination for some crit. If you want to, you can travel up through here and get these nodes. These nodes are pretty solid. They give you some crit chance and fizz damage, and then it gives you access to Ridden Blood. But I found that I could just get better things by not spending the points traveling, but that is an option for like 90 plus. Once you get all this core package, I'd then recommend you come up this way. The reason why I recommend going up this way first is just to get your crit enabled. The thing with crit is you need a lot of crit, or you need to reach your crit threshold. So you can come up this way first, but then you're not enabling your crit until, you know, very high 80s. And generally speaking, if you're doing a crit build, you would enable your crit earlier than, you know, the kind of point where you want to move on to your next character. But anyway, you then come up this way, throw in another Pugilist Jewel in here. We get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and here we get 80, because again, it is a large jewel. A whole load more fizz scaling, a whole load more evasion scaling. Grab some resists here. Resists are really needed since we use so many uniques. Resists are really needed. A jewel, and this jewel is where you throw in your all-res jewels. Eventually, when you have the perfect gear, you take out one of these two all-res jewels and you put in martial artistry. Martial artistry gives you up to 15% increased AoE while unarmed. Really nice jewel, really amazing for Infernal Blow, but you want to have capped resists before you get your AoE, just so you know. And just fill in the silent life. So with all this filled in, we have 180% max life without life on jewels. We have access to more life in a few places. You know, you can travel up this way if you want to. You can fill in a few nodes in here. You could maybe branch down to thick skin. I wouldn't really recommend that. you know, you could come down and grab Evasion Life. You have a few options, but yeah, this is basically my build. I will keep you guys updated. Oh, and obviously, you can grab Profane Chemistry for 3 points. Pretty good. The reason why I didn't pick them up initially was kind of stretched on points. I want to fit in the core package. But yeah. Seems good, man. I'll keep you guys updated. Here's the base. Feel free to copy it. But, word of warning, it's really, really expensive.